So yeah, like I was saying, happy Father's Day to all of you that celebrate it however you celebrate it. Like I mentioned, I do have a brother that has played a huge role in my life as a father figure, not having my dad around, and obviously my mom. Those strong guerreras that are out there, those single parents, whether they're mothers and fathers, have to play both of those roles. So, like I said, happy Father's Day to all of you. So hopefully we don't keep you guys here too long, but a lot of you already know I was born and raised in San Diego, Califaslan. So growing up there in the barrio in North County, San Diego, in Vista, I learned a lot there. But I always say that the first time I started using the word Chicana was when I was watching the Chicano PBS documentary back in the day. I don't even remember how I started watching this particular documentary, but for those of you that haven't seen it, it's an old school Chicano. It's called Chicano, and it's a PBS documentary that was there a while ago. And I started watching it, and I learned about Chicano Park, and I learned about all kinds of different people. And I started visiting Chicano Park, I want to say when I was 10, and ended up going there and was just completely floored with the artwork that was going on there. And I remember this article in the Union Tribune or the North County Times, and I vividly remember it because it was one of those first articles that made an impact on me. And it was two people standing, almost like front page. It was two Mexicanos standing, a lady and a man. And one of them had the American flag on one side and the other one had a Mexican flag on the other. And then the title of the article was Brown versus Brown. And I started reading it and I realized what kind of that I wasn't the only one that had that identity crisis of being a Chicana, of being Mexican American, right? Of being from two different worlds, right? Both my parents were born in Mexico. My family hails from Guanajuato, El DF, Sonora, and Jalisco. And my parents from Mexicali. So when you come to this country, you don't know, you're fighting those borderlands, right? You're fighting the fact that you are Mexican, but then the fact that you were born here, everybody starts saying, well, you're not Mexican like us because you weren't born in Mexico. And then those are the people that are here in America are like, oh, well, you're not American because you're Mexican and you don't look like us. So it was a lot of major inner identity crisis that I was having at like 13 years old. Many people do not know that in San Diego, it is a very racist city. Most people think, oh, well, San Diego is right there by the border. Everybody must be really nice because they like you guys because you're by the border. No, it's the complete opposite. San Diego is unfortunately, there's a lot of pockets of racism there. So we had to deal with that. I know some of you already know the story of like in high school when I got suspended for speaking Spanish to one of my friends. I had a math teacher that threw a whiteboard eraser at me because I got to class late after like a mecha event. And, he started saying, oh, you and your people are flooding our schools and you should all go back to Mexico. So those are some of the things that I had to deal with when I was really, really young. And on top of that, kind of just deal with the identity crisis of being a Chicana. So I'd say that at like the tender age of 12, 13 is when I started using it. A lot of my students know I don't use Hispanic. I don't use Latina. If it usually starts off with Chicana, and it stays there as the term that I self-identify with, that I'm comfortable with. If we have to go down the line, then, I'll say, Mexicana, Mexican American, but to me, Chicana is probably the best and only term that I will self-identify with because it's the one that I relate to, I self-identify with, and it's the most comfortable for me, especially having to go through all those different things when you're younger and still try to maintain that fight for who we are as a people and how oppressed we've been for about 500 years. So that's how I started calling myself that. I guess, in a nutshell.
How has your identity and your activism shaped your like educational journey? So I know recently, congratulations, you just got your master's in Chicana Studies, and I know that's not your first master's degree. And so I know you've been studying a lot in these formal, institutionalized, systems of education. But you're also very educated in terms of identity, in terms of Chicanismo, in terms of the struggle, in terms of the people. So how have you maintained that education for yourself? And how has it transformed over the years as you've navigated as a student, but also academia as a professional?
I'd say our fight within the higher education system, and Dr. Vanessa knows this, it is very difficult. It is very difficult. And yes, with ethnic studies being added into the curriculums as far as high school and college is concerned, it's still going to be a struggle for all of us. When I finished high school, I wanted to actually go to CSUN. I wanted to go to Cal State Northridge because they had one of the first undergrad Chicano studies programs. Unfortunately, I had a very racist counselor, and she made sure none of my paperwork made it to any university that I applied to. So she's like, no, you guys aren't going to make it. There's no need for you to go to college. You're just like a little, what did she call us? The word beaner was very popular at my school. It was in a very rich area of North County. So she made sure none of my paperwork made it to any universities. Luckily, I was in Upward Bound, a college transfer program in high school. So luckily, we were able to get me into Cal State San Marcos. So Cal State San Marcos is in North County. It's right there by where I lived in North County, San Diego. So I was able to go there, but they didn't have an ethnic studies or a Chicano studies program. So I was really sad. But at the same time, it was nice to stay close to home because I was helping my single mom. So I ended up just getting my bachelor's in communication and kind of just worked at it that way. But I had a very inspiring counselor, and she was the reason I wanted to become a counselor. So after that, I went to get my first master's in counseling, and then believe it or not, that particular counselor is the reason I am a counselor today. So she got me the job that I have right now. So it's all about who you know as far as jobs and networking. And I'm very blessed because I get to work with her every single day. She actually gave up her office for me. So that's like a full circle moment for me where I'm sitting in the office of my previous counselor. But after that, I've always wanted to do Chicano studies since I was really young. So once, the other school that I used to work at offered me like a discounted master's, I guess you can say, hey, you work here, so go ahead and if you want, we'll give you a master's. And I was like, oh, okay, why not? So I got another one, organizational leadership, but the one that was really important to me was Chicano studies. And I'd say 2 years ago, I was looking for a PhD program in Chicano studies. And I reached out to, when you're doing a PhD, you got to reach out to institutions and their faculty. And I started reaching out to, big hitters like UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, and pretty much some of the only schools that had Chicano studies. I think University of New Mexico. And unfortunately, I didn't have good luck with like University of New Mexico. They had never gotten back to us. I think there was like a page on Facebook that I think that's how Andrew and I met. We were kind of talking about University of New Mexico and how they never got back to us when we were looking for Chicano studies questions on PhDs. And then I had a meeting with some Chicano studies faculty from UCLA, and I won't mention who specifically I met with, but unfortunately, when I met with them, they were very just kind of it was very difficult to get through to them. It almost seemed like they were gatekeeping the PhD in Chicano studies. And unfortunately, that's another layer of difficulty that we have within higher education, is that you have those veteranos and veteranas that it's like they want to continue the field of Chicano studies, but they don't want the next generation to kind of come in. And it was difficult for me because this particular person, is someone that I looked up to as one of the godfathers of Chicana and Chicano studies. And unfortunately was just like, what do you know? You're just, your experience isn't enough. And that person actually made me realize, or made me feel like my experience as a Chicana wasn't enough, that I needed that formal education that Doctora Vanessa is talking about, right? I didn't think I needed it in my head. I was like, I don't need a piece of paper to tell me what I am or who I am. That's ridiculous. But sure enough, I went ahead and enrolled at University of New Mexico, and we started taking, they had the only Chicana and Chicano Studies online certificate. So we were paying around $2,000 per class. And I will say, I think Andrew's in here, we paid $2,000 per class out of our own pocket, no financial aid, to get this certificate. And it was about 4 or 5 classes. But then after we finished the certificate, we kept taking classes because we knew that if the units that we had, we could eventually start teaching in community college and whatnot. So I finished the certificate, and then University of New Mexico reached out and said, hey, we have a graduate assistantship, which will help you pay for the rest of your master's. So for me, I thought it was a perfect opportunity to just go ahead and finish the master's. And then they started working on a PhD in Chicana and Chicano Studies, a hybrid PhD. And so that kind of brought me to where I am right now. So yeah, I just finished it in May, and it was great to finish it and finally say that I have it, because although it wasn't the best way to go about it, or maybe the feelings weren't the happiest when someone's telling you your own experience as a Chicana isn't enough. You need that formal piece of paper, which is ridiculous. I will say that you do feel a little bit more confident now, because unfortunately we have to come to the realization that they need that piece of paper here. Apparently that's what you need, right? And I think that is going to be difficult for a lot of us, because a lot of students are falling through the cracks of the Chicano pipeline, and that's a problem. And I think if our veteranos and veteranas are not letting us get through that, or finding their own ways to motivate us, which I personally still would like to go back to that particular person and talk to them and see where we're at now, a couple of years later after I spoke to them. But I think it's our plight within the higher education system is very, very difficult. And I don't think this whole ethnic studies is going to help us in particular, specifically, Chicanas, Chicanos, Latinas, Latinos, Latinx and Chicanx. I don't think it's not going to help us, this ethnic studies specific class or specific requirement, because a lot of our programs are dying out. They're being absorbed by ethnic studies. And I think specifically here in the Southwest, we need to make sure that we keep our own identity. So our own classes, our own Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx classes, we need to keep them. So it has definitely changed. Won't change my identity. It won't change my attitude. It has made me a little bit more headstrong. And I am consistently fighting the politics of my institution. As far as that, you're always going to have people that are, you're always going to have coconuts coming at you. And, they're saying that they're Latinos or representing, but they're really not. And they are allowing themselves to be absorbed by the politics of higher ed institutions instead of keeping their identity and their integrity, or being who they are. So I still fight that. I'm a counselor now. I'm a full-time counselor, and I'm an instructor now. And it's something that is very real, and you still fight it. And most people think, oh, you're in California, you'll be fine. You're not. It's actually more difficult in these Southwest states, because you do have people that are against it, even though they're of that particular origin. So it's definitely something that has been something that weighs heavily on my mind. And obviously, Dr. Vanessa, you know that because you also worked in the higher education system. So you fully understand what it's like to be in this system and how hard it is to fight and how tired you can get when you don't get the support. But I definitely think that we all need to continue moving towards being positive and trying to help however way we can, because if nobody else does it, then these particular students are not going to get through the pipeline.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you. With all that being said, and the constant fight that you have, that you've had, not just in your, in your program and at work through your profession, but also, you're currently serving as the Califa state rep for La Raza Unida party. How do you feel all of those identities of yours intermix? And how do you keep your head above the water, I guess, for a better, like a lack of a better way of saying it, um, as you continue the fight, as you continue the struggle, because you just talked about how daunting it can be, and how, heart, like, I think soul crushing it can be, like, Dr. Anita talks about spirit murder, and I feel like that for sure is spirit murder, right? So how do you, like, keep moving ahead? Like, what's some advice that you can give to those that are logged in today, who are also in the struggle and possibly navigating all these different things in their lives, and like staying, above water?
Good luck. No, I'm just kidding. So I think it is really difficult, and you are absolutely right. Soul crushing, it soul murdering. Yes, it absolutely is. I mean, I have some friends online right now that we've done a lot of work at our institution, and it's like we keep getting hits against hits on each other, on Raza, and you're sitting here looking at the institution that you work for, and you're like, wait, did you not just get a bunch of money to become an HSI to get that designation? Yet here we are providing an opportunity to grow the community and for students to feel supported and a sense of belonging. Yet we're getting in trouble for doing these different things, or we are, our hand is being slapped and our careers are being threatened because we're going that hard for Raza. So it is very difficult. I'm going through a particular situation myself right now where I kind of almost have to back up a little bit and kind of put my head down in a very political way at the institution. I know what way I'm going to attack everything else in a more strategic way. But it's very difficult to maintain all the hats that we wear, right? So, a lot of people like yourselves have families and have social responsibilities and professional responsibilities and personal responsibilities. And I think the only thing that really is going to help drive you is your passion, is your ganas, right? Because these things are tiring. But when I see my students, right, when I see my students graduating, or when I see my students, send me these messages of appreciation because, hey, when I came to this college, I had no idea what I was going to do. And then now you've inspired me to learn about Raza and to do this and that or the other. That's what keeps me going. There's been late nights, and like I said, I can see the list of some people that are in here. There's been late nights of us working until, and when I say late nights, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, we're at location at 2, 3 in the morning trying to get things done for a particular event, or we're working around the clock every day trying to organize or to give the students that experience. So it's really the passion for the people. And I know it may sound cliche to say it, but that's really what it is. Some people are like, oh, you guys are working outside of your hours, and not everybody can do that. You're right. And we don't expect everybody to do it. But at the end of the day, the passion that you have to move students through the pipeline is what kind of keeps me centered. And sometimes you're not going to be able to make it to a meeting. And sometimes you're not going to be able to do everything you want to do, even if you prioritize. And I think that's important for some people to understand, that even if you do try to prioritize, life happens. And sometimes you won't be able to make it to everything that you are a part of. But at the end of the day, it's not going to negate the fact that you are passionate about that. And, like even right now with La Raza Unida, right? We're still in like reconstruction, and we're still trying to get things done, and sometimes things move really fast and sometimes things move really slow. So it's all about patience too. I mean, some things are going to work out great and fast, and other times they're not. So it's really about patience and about passion for what you're doing. I mean, I tell students every single day when they come into my office, well, what do you want to do? Or what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I still tell them that just to make them laugh, because they're all older. And they're like, well, I want to make money, so I want to be a nurse. That's a really popular career. Okay, but what's your gut telling you? Like, what have you wanted to be, ever since you were little? And then they're like, oh, an engineer. Okay, we should go towards an engineer instead of you trying to make money quick as a nurse, because they don't understand that they really should be going towards their passion. So right now, as a counselor, I love going to work every day. Yes, my students sometimes they make me think, and they make me wonder, and and yes, stress every day with the classes that they have to take and the schools they want to go to. But that's my calling. That's what I was put on this earth for. But at the same time, the other part of my calling was to learn and teach Chicano studies. And I was a appointed counselor for the last 3 years, and I was able to do that during one of my classes. You get to puentify your classes, which is really kind of just put that identity, cultura piece into that college success class. So not only did they learn about study skills and time management and how to be successful at the college, but there was 2-3 units of just identity, and having them understand what the terms were, and what it is to be part of that cultura. So it's really about passion to me. And yes, I get home tired sometimes and I'll work very late, but I think passion is what's going to drive anybody to do whatever they can do.
Thank you. I also kind of hear in that response a little bit also of mindset. Like your mind has to be focused in the direction that you want it to go, right? So with everything, especially working with students and working at a college, and also navigating as a student, what are some things that you practice to maintain a positive mindset or forward thinking mindset? What are some things that you do for your own mental health?
So one of the big issues that we have as a culture is we don't do anything mental health related. Like we will, I don't know if you guys remember, but like back in the day, when we were older, telling my Mexican mom, estoy estresada, I'm stressed. She's gonna be like, what are you stressed about? Like, no, what are you depressed about? Like, stop it. You need to go take a nap, or you need to ponte a limpiar. That was my mom's biggest thing. Like, go clean. Apparently your stress and your depression will go away if you guys clean. I'll just let you guys know that's what my mom's answer was. So right now, it is, because of that, it is very difficult to actually do something for your mental health, right? To have these positive things. I know, like, Ronnie's here and he'll tell you that we never do, like in our group, we never do anything we never focus on us. We're always focusing on other people. So if my students come to me, I'm always trying to help find something for them, but I never take care of myself. So much so that, like, I think it was Christmas or whatever, Ronnie one time gave, me and 3 other of our girlfriends, gave us all massages. He's like, good God, you guys all need to go get a massage because you guys do not take care of yourselves. And it was cool because I hadn't gone to a massage. So, but my biggest thing is working out. Like, I hadn't worked out for maybe about a year and a half. I was doing CrossFit for a long time. And for many of you that don't know, my sister passed away about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, actually. And that took a huge toll on my life, on my family's life, especially because the way she was killed, it's still like an open investigation. And so, unfortunately, that had took a huge toll, and I stopped going to work out, and I, went into this really, really dark depression that I'm still trying to crawl out of. But I working out always made me feel really, really good. So that's one of my favorite things to do, and just spend time with my friends and my family. Like, last night I went with my family to a Padres game, right? And just spending time with my family. Having my dogs was a huge way for me to just be happy in the moment. And then my dogs were all 18 years old, so they passed away last year. So it's been about 2 years of major life changes. So trying to say that I've managed it all for my mental health right now. I started going to therapy a year ago. So baby steps is what I'm doing. I can't say that I know how to do everything to keep myself in a very happy mental state, but whatever is going to help each individual person. Maybe therapy is not for you, maybe going out for a run. I know some people do very specific things, going out for runs, working out, doing whatever you need to do, whatever makes you particularly happy, because whatever's working for me may not necessarily work for you. A lot of you all know that I love to travel. That is one of my favorite things to do. And that is one of my favorite things for my mental health. I get to just get away for a little bit. And whether it's, here in the States or go to a concert in Europe, that's what makes me happy. Those are my happy moments. But I think it's just an adjustment of, it's not easy. It's not easy. And by all means, I would never say that I know how to do it. I'm still discovering that, because I am of a generation that never took care of myself. It was always like, oh, you're just stressed, you'll be fine. So now we have to come to the realization that, no, we have issues and we need to kind of see what we can do to be able to move past them, whether it's hang out with friends or do this or do that. So I'm still in that process of trying to figure out what it is, but right now it's been working out. That brought me back some joy when I started doing it about a month ago. So yeah.
Love that. Thank you. And you're right, it is baby steps, because as you were saying, like, we do come from families where it's like, stay busy, stay busy, stay busy. Here, go clean, go do this, go do that, right? And we never really have opportunities to like sit with what's happening, sit with the feelings, sit with the discomfort, and actually process it. And so thank you for sharing that. I want to go ahead and open it up now to everybody in the group. If you have any questions for Cynthia, you can put them in the chat, or you can feel free to unmute. Yeah. You can also give comments. Ronnie, go ahead.
What's up, friend? Hearing you speak, right, and just knowing the work that you all do, and a lot of the folks here at the meeting, right, this is a lot of shakers and movers, when it comes to the cause and cultura and spreading the word out, and something that's been kind of weighing on my mind a lot, and kind of wanted to pick your brain a bit on this, right? There's an identity crisis going on right now, kind of generally speaking, right? And then I think for our peoples as well. And so there's this terrible like gentrification, homogenization, and dilution, right, of our culture, of where we're at. I was having a conversation just yesterday about this terrible space that so often folks got to try and assimilate, right, to what it is to live here in United States. But it's like, wait a minute, this is Mexico, right? Why is there's this this pressure, right, to force people to assimilate to something that this was yours, this was your land? And just for clarification, I'm Salvadorian. So I'm from Central America, Mayan blood up in here, but all my dearest friends here, right, Xicana, Mexican. And it's so just this, I think, about identity. That's the overall thing that we're talking about here, right, is identity, the theme here. And what's the future looking like with, again, all this homogenization, dilution, gentrification of who we are, where we come from, this appropriation, of cultures. And it's getting tough, even if you grow up knowing, right, even with the grand effort that I know you do and I do and our crew does, it's tough to hold on to, the media playing such a big part, et cetera, et cetera. So, just the question, I guess, is the future of this kind of not just for new folks, the search for identity, but for us that are well in it, maintaining it, because it's a constant attack, right? There's a constant attack on our cultures, right? And who we are, and this pressure to assimilate, right? Gentrify. And I love that term, right? Spirit murder. Damn, that's legit. So, the future of this identity crisis.
I think the problem is that there is no future unless people like us continue working at this particular issue, right? Or just to help this population, just to help our people. So like I said, that one instructor, and I think I talked to you about it one time, Ronnie, this one instructor that I talked to from UCLA made me feel, I don't think the instructor knew that I was on my way home and I had my mom in the car with me. So I had no other choice but to accept this phone call in the car. And this instructor actually made me cry at the end of our conversation, because it was the first time I was trying to apply to a PhD program. I was trying to get in with that faculty, and the way he was gatekeeping the field and gatekeeping everything. My mom said that she had never felt so bad in her life. Like, she never felt like this guy just talked to my daughter in this particular way. And then in my head, I'm like, well, how do you want us to continue this fight, to continue what you all started, back in the day, if you're not even allowing the next generation to kind of come through that pipeline, to come through, whether it's Xicana Studies or ethnic studies, whatever the case may be. And that immediately is what I thought of when you said, like, how are we going to help the next generation? It's by not gatekeeping all this stuff. It's by, teaching the next Chicanas and Chicanos and Chicanx people to actually understand this is important. Because you're absolutely right. This was and is Mexico, maybe under all of that pavement and everything and all the politics. But at the end of the day, that's something that people don't like to hear, that this was and is Mexico, under everything, under all of the BS that you built on top of it. It's still Mexico. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't negate the fact that it wasn't Mexico and it isn't Mexico. So that, I think it's really just making sure that we do what we continue to do, educating, whether it's educating it specifically with a piece of paper at a college institution, or educating, through, speaking arrangements or conferences, or what you do, Ronnie, because you inspire a lot of students. A lot of you may not know that Ronnie inspires students. There were times where it was 11, 12 o'clock at night when I was finishing this particular semester, and I'd call him and I'm like, man, I don't know how to. At this point, you're burnt out, taking 2 fast track classes while working full time, while also managing the Puente program, while also still trying to fight my own personal demons. And I would call Ronnie we would chat, and I'm like, man, I have no idea how to do this right now because I'm so completely burnt out. And he has this magical way of inspiring people. And it would be like 11, 12 and midnight, and I would be inspired just by listening to him. So I think it's really a matter of continuing to inspire people, whether it's that formal way, informally, having a conversation with students, whether it's like I said, informally, because if we had our own institution, right, if we had our own schools like Greek school. Remember that movie? I forgot what movie it was, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, right? Where they had their own Greek school, and being able to educate the people, Raza, as far as what our identity is. And because even some students, when I'm giving them the terminology, right? This is what Hispanic means. This is what Latino means. This is what Chicana, even they are like, I didn't know what this meant. And they're already in college. So I think it's really just finding the time, and whatever opportunity you have, whether it's a group of 30 people, whether it's a group of 5 people, whether it's just one student, just dropping in that seed, dropping in that particular seed of like, hey, this is who this is your people, this is the land, this is your culture, this is who you are. Because I think once you drop that seed, I think if we continually drop seeds within these younger generations, it's gonna help but it is definitely difficult. And Ronnie knows specifically what we're talking about with the institution that we work for. But just in higher ed, they work very hard between K through 12 to bash and murder our spirit, our identity, our culture. So we have to remain like this stronghold. And how do we do that? Well, we have to just remain with each other, keep educating each other, keep inspiring, showing the people who they are and where we come from. I think one thing that we also forget sometimes too is everybody that came before us, right? Yes, we have all these new authors and people that are sharing their story, but it's really because of those people back in the day, right? The Xicana and Porky and everybody that really started all of that in order for us to be where we are right now. And yes, now we have all these different people, but it's really kind of reminding people where we came from and actually educating them, because I think a lot of people don't know that, and keeping your identity is very difficult. Even right now, one of my students that's on here, wear your hoops. Look, y'all, I understand you guys are used to seeing me wear hoops every single day. What y'all don't know is I just got my ears pierced again, because many, many years of those hoops, your original piercing when you're a baby, I mean, that's going to get a little bit stretched. So I had to get new ones. I can't tell you how naked I feel without my hoops right now. I'm looking in the thing and I'm like, ew. So the hoops, trust me, the hoops are there, but that's also part of my identity too, right? The fact that one of my students is calling me out because I don't have my hoops, because I know that's part of my identity that I've had every single day since I was like 12. Yeah, keeping part of your identity is it's going to get battered and it's going to get abused, and people are going to try to destroy the identity that you've created, but it's up to you to make sure that you're strong in your integrity to keep your identity.
Cynthia, would you talk a little bit about the fact that part of how you do that is as a club advisor? And so the district that we serve, there's a K-12 district that is implementing right now. There's a city and a K-12 district within our district that is implementing flat out racist policies. And so this is like an ongoing issue. And then you support students right now through clubs and other activities.
So I restarted Mecha at my school that I'm at. And I didn't understand why a institution with 51% Latino population, or they want to say Hispanic population, I couldn't understand why we didn't have a Latino club. No idea. It was baffling to me. We had the Puente program, and that's a program that I helped co-coordinate, but we had no like Mecha, Alas, nothing. And studies show that if Black and Brown students, that the only way they really survive and are successful in either transferring or finishing their programs is having a sense of belonging, a sense of community at their institution. And unfortunately, on top of that, you also have that level of Black and Brown students that come to a community college. If they have all these other responsibilities that they're helping their families and whatnot, and that's a cultural thing, but we had nothing. So students, that's why our percentages of transferring and completion were really, really low. So brought back Mecha, and it has some of the parents of our students have reached out to us and said, my student didn't care and didn't want to go to school, but when they found that there was Mecha, they started going to it and now more interested than ever. But Stephanie's right. We are very near to wine country, Temecula, and for those of you that have no idea what's going on, they are trying to really control what students are learning, and it's unfortunate because they don't want to acknowledge basically non-European history. Let's just call it that, right? That they just want them to learn about how great the US is and what a great country, and how they're great at war because they always win, and not talk about the plight of Black and Brown people what the country has actually done against these groups. And it's really sad. So on top of that, you have a college district nestled in this particular area. And it is very, very difficult to continue this fight of, hey, let's have the Metro students do this and do that. And then on top of that, we were trying to create a sense of environment and belonging for these students. And every time we did that, you know, our hands would get slapped, literally. And you know, careers have been changed because of that and affected. My career, you know, I can talk about my career being affected because of that, but also the rest of us in this particular group. So it's hard. It's hard because you're scared. You're scared, like, hey, these people are affecting my job, my career, my livelihood, the ability for me to bring bread to my mom and my table. And not only while you're trying to focus on this, you have that fear of not having a job because of something that you're trying to do to help the students, which is what you thought these institutions are here for. So it makes it very difficult to keep your spirit up and still show these students that they should keep fighting the system. But then at the same time, in the back of your head, you're just like, if I keep doing this, I might lose my job. And if I keep doing this, they're going to affect my career. So you're almost juggling all these different these different hats, but at the same time, we keep pushing. If you want to go ahead and lose a counselor because I'm pushing a student to go ahead and think outside the box and talk about their history and keep pushing for their own history, all right, that's fine. Like, I'll go ahead and apply somewhere else. You know, at the end of the day, it's a daunting task, but like I said, I think as long as people are driven by their passion to make sure they help these students, that's the most important thing. You know, we have students that are in Metro that are actually going to the school board meetings for this particular district. They're going to the rallies, and this is our Metro president, our Metro VP. They're like, Cynthia, can I go here? Hell yeah, you can go there. Yes, go with a few of you people, you know? So they're starting to finally understand their role in the future. I can't do it for you guys all the time. I'm getting older. You guys need to set the stage for the next generation while you're also teaching the students behind you, your siblings or whoever it is. So it has been a very daunting task because, you know, the institutions that we work for are, a lot of them are conservative, and let's just be real, they're all white. There's not that many administrators and faculty that are Black or brown. So our students have no reference. They don't see that many of us in those positions. So that also makes it more difficult. And then when you have a district literally minutes, like not even minutes, like blocks away from where your school is nestled at, saying, hey, we don't believe in critical race theory and we're not gonna educate our students, you're like, wait, what? So it has been very makes you angry, because we all know what we've gone through and we all know the history that has been hidden from the US history books. I think I was rereading Occupied America, and I said I was going to start reading a little bit more in the summer, because now that I'm done with my classes, and I was messaging with Andrew the other day, and I was like, oh my God, I'm reading this. And maybe back in the day when I first started reading it, I was so busy with all these other different things that I really couldn't focus on it. And I'm refocusing on it. And as I'm reading, I'm pissed, because I never liked history, but as you're reading it from the perspective of your people and your raza and your culture, you get really angry. And, you know, back when I read it the first time, you know, you have this notion of what the Mexican-American war was, right? But you were given a very Anglo version of it. So to me, it was just like, oh, okay. And then people were like, oh, well, Mexico lost the war. But then as you're reading the other side of it, the other perspective, which is hidden, you're like, WTF, right? Like, wait, what? And I'm much more interested actually than I was back in the day. So, you know, it's interesting how our history just keeps being buried because they don't want people to know what messed up or how messed up this place is. So thanks, Steph.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Stephanie and Ronnie, for also your questions. And I just wanted to say, you know, you're absolutely right, Cynthia. And I think that's why it's so important, everything that you're doing, everything that you have done, the positions that you take, the leadership that you provide, not just within the Partido, but in your community, your local community, your school community, your, you know, class communities that you've been part of, all the different communities that you serve in. You are, you know, a leader in the Chicano movement, you know, and you are helping the next generation of leaders identify themselves as well and see themselves in the movimiento. And I just wanted to tell you, you know, we see all that you're doing, and we're so proud of you. I know that we're extremely proud to have you as our Califa state rep for the Partido, especially being such a strong Chicana and empowering and motivating and also educating in all of these spaces, you know. So thank you so much for taking the time today to share your story with us, empower us and motivate us through your palabras. And for all those that came today, thank you so much for taking the time. I do know today, you know, a lot of people are busy. So thank you so much for carving out the time to come in and listen and come in and discuss and you know, be with us as we fight to move the Raza forward and elevate the causa and fight for the liberation and self-determination of our people, you know. So thank you so much. You know, I know it's 12 o'clock. We want to be mindful of everyone's time, but if you have anything else to comment or share, feel free to unmute on your way out or say any last words or put them in the comment section. But wanted to say thank you. Gracias a todos.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, I got to say something because Cynthia knows I got to say something. And I want to echo a lot of that pride and say, I'm definitely proud of you. First time I met Cynthia was during it was a online virtual Latinx graduation that we were having. And I immediately saw that leadership as well that you're speaking of, Dr. Bustamante, right? And been trying to, we're talking about identity and self-care and all these things. And it's hard often for us to hear that we are worthy, that we are capable, that we are leaders. And so it's good to hear this being echoed, that Cynthia is that leader, that she is going to be, I believe, I'm predicting it on a national stage as a leader when it comes to Chicano studies and education in academia. And just truly proud of her and everything that she's accomplished and her fortitude, her strength, and her friendship. She really is an amazing person and who's been through hell and back and is still fighting. So truly a Chicana warrior all day long. So thank you all for creating this awesome space for her to come here and shine brightly the way she does. And yeah, proud of you.
Thanks, friend. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Great Sunday. Appreciate you. Good.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Hopefully we'll see you all again next month, third Sunday of the month for our next Xicana Caucus meeting. But thank you again for your time, your space, your energy, Cynthia, and for leading us within the Partido.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Bye, everyone.
Bye.